Next, Italian political elections and its broader implications. What will be a possible impact on EU after a new center-right government will take power in Italy? I do think that the main impact on EU is coming from its own confrontational one-sided approach in the Ukraine-Russian conflict rather than from the new Italy government. In fact, the latter will not change the Italian foreign policies guidelines, which is the only relevant index to evaluate Italian impact on regional and global affairs. The new Italian government will confirm a full subordination, if not subjugation, of the EU to US grand strategy. Italy will not offer any significant novelty, but rather than a strong contributor to the negative consequences that Europe is experiencing, for example, in terms of energy, economy, and financial crisis, for its own responsibility or inability to fill out properly its internal priorities. Lifting sanctions on Russia, stopping arms sales, and opening a dialogue with Russia is a precondition to readdress European mistakes. However, nobody in the Italian mainstream political parties seem to be aware about these objectives. A new center-right government in Italy, likely led by Giorgia Meloni, friendly Italy's leader, will not have an impact on these dynamics. The main three parties of a center-right coalition in Italy are allied fully to the so-called agenda, dragging it simply means keeping Italy at the Western services, named at its foreign policy priorities, guaranteed Brussels. Meloni is hyper-elitist, therefore nothing will change in this sense about the EU. If Meloni will try to put in discussion of the Italian belonging to EU, she will undergo repercussions and will last shorter. However, beyond propaganda rhetoric, the coalition has not articulated ideas and real power, even when in power, to implement cassette policies. Meloni will not affect Washington Brussels axis, even though it is true that the Italy, France, Italy, and Niger have expressed in the past their skepticism towards Brussels and the Italian belonging to EU. We have to keep in mind that neither in the past nor currently they have implemented to elaborated anything serious in this direction. It could be possible that they will make some ambiguous statements after taking power, but nothing more than this. In addition, Washington Brussels axis is stronger than ever, and it is a geopolitical benchmark in the current Italy foreign policy, not only for center-right coalition but also for center-left. This is so true that during the current electoral campaign, for the first time in the short history of the Italy Republic, Nobody is talking about Italy's foreign policy. Neither a relatively new force such as Five Stars movement does not present an alternative to a strong alternative positioning in the current campaign foreign policy debate disappeared in spite of the fact that the world is experiencing huge geopolitical turmoil in the core of Europe, but also in North Africa and the Middle East, to mention few events affecting directly the Italy domestic context. The Italy cultural political atmosphere during the Italy Prime Minister Maria Draghi's term changed radically, and brutality towards an anti-Russia and anti-Chinese posture in order to reaffirm a so-called Euro-Atlantic positioning. It can be summarized as nobody in the main parties put in discussion this radical term since the Draghi ascent until now. If I am correct in my evaluation, the new elections should not present any significant change. The anti-Russia and anti-China approach to off with the Draghi's government, where Draghi was called into power by Italy President Sergio Mattarella and foreign supporters in order to implement brutal twists in favor of a rigid and ideological antagonism, according to alliance in Washington and Brussels. Italy was to open in 2019 towards China and Russia by signing the BELT and Road Initiative, moving with China. Therefore, they recognized a counter-reaction readdressing Italy's foreign policy. How did they implement it? In pointing the weaknesses of Italy political forces and intervening with an alternatist Washington high-level executor of the capitalist world, Maria Draghi. It is very likely that Maria Draghi or another similar personage will come back to power if the new government coalition will not guarantee stability and the current direction according to Washington's desire. Ironically enough, we got benefits from Chinese investments and trading with China, much more focused on real economy than US and Europe. However, we decided to blind our eyes near net cost-benefits analysis and move into a wrong direction. US foreign policy with Brussels complicity is irrational, and it is producing internal irrational views. For example, our confrontational posture towards Russia. In addition, there is the acceptance of anti-China attitude following the dangerous and unreasonable new Cold War strategy applied and imposed by US to Europe. Melanie is fully adherent with such an approach.